Okay, so Philip, I love you. Thanks for the shout out there, dude. Working with Philip Tice, if you ever get the opportunity to work with Philip, it is a vibe. So what I get the opportunity to talk on today is a pretty simple topic that I feel like if we bring some more attention to it, I think our CPO is going to continue to grow within business gifts. So do I have a PowerPoint? I think I do. If I just click it, does it go? Maybe. I get to talk about the 7-inch. Just kidding. Just kidding. Q&A, guys, that's it. That's all I got. It's all good. Don't worry about it. I don't actually really need the PowerPoint. That's it. Sell the 7-inch Santoku, guys. You'll make a lot of money. It's going to be awesome. All right. So I have my PowerPoint up here, so don't worry. I can pull the numbers that I had on the PowerPoint. Okay, so some fun facts about the 7-inch Santoku. First off, who here likes selling the 7-inch Santoku as business gifts? Hell yeah. Okay, wild fact, right? I had a customer earlier this year that bought 50 Santoku trimmers, and I was like, dude, this is going to be so sick. This is going to be like a $4,200 CPO order. And it was like $3,200 because the CPO difference between the Santoku trimmer and like the line one was like 97 to like 83. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks. But in comparison to the 7-inch Santoku, the 7-inch Santoku is wildly more efficient for our CPO. Obviously, it's almost double the price, right? So you make a lot more money when you sell it. But the needle mover, as far as how much we sell the Santoku trimmer for versus the 7-inch Santoku, it's kind of wild. So a couple stats for you. So last year we sold 9,327 Santoku trimmers. So 9,327 Santoku trimmers. The CPO, I kind of threw a rough estimate out. Obviously, we're throwing in deals, business gifts, things like that. Probably worth around $700,000 of the business gift CPO last year were just Santoku trimmers, okay? Now, we sold almost 1,600 less 7-inch Santokus. We sold 7,733 7-inch Santokus. And I kind of, again, same rough percentage off with discounts, would equate to $1.1 million in CPO. So an extra $400,000 in CPO, literally from just the 7-inch Santoku, even though we're technically selling less of them, okay? So some specifics on the 7-inch Santoku, okay? Some recommendations that I would recommend if who here would like to sell more 7-inch Santokus? Anybody? All right, heck yeah, okay. All right, couple tips. Buy samples of a 7-inch Santoku in all 3 colors, okay? And then specifically what you're gonna do is you are going to do 3 different engravings on these 7-inch Santokus. So first off, you're gonna put on one 7-inch Santoku, logo only. Okay, logo only. Second thing you're going to do on the second engraving is you're going to do no logo, and you're going to just put handcrafted for, and then you're going to put somebody's last name. You can do your own last name. I'm going to give some examples here in a second. And then the third logoed 7-inch Santoku you're going to do, again, different color, is going to be a logo with handcrafted especially for. Okay? I'm curious, by show of hands, who here already has those samples at their booth? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, 10, 12-ish, 15-ish people. For those product managers, Pam Bailey 7-inch Santoku sales are about to pop this week. It's going to be awesome. You're welcome. I just sold probably 300 7-inch Santokus. Just kidding. All right. So the reason, okay, big credit to Joseph Rodriguez for leading the charge on this. Okay, he gave a great roundtable message a couple years ago that I was at that I got a lot of the nuggets that I'm going to share with you today on the 7-inch Santoku. But having 3 7-inch Santokus that you can keep closed, not even necessarily have open at the booth, right, but have under the table that when you start bringing up the conversation of business gifts, you can present as if this customer that has already told you how they like to do the idea of a gift, oh, I like the idea of my logo, or I would never do a logo, or oh, it would kind of be cool to be able to do both. And you show them the real thing with the 7-inch Santoku, powerful, extremely powerful. It is very much true that in our business, what we think about, we get most of the time, right? Who here has ever heard that phrase? What we think about, we get most of the time, right? It is also very real that what we talk about, we sell a lot of. So instead of having a bunch of Santoku trimmers at your booth, I would recommend, it's still important to have it, because the price point below $100 for our financial advisors, for example, that got to spend under $100 because laws. Anyway, they're still a very real thing, right? But for the majority of our customers, right, that are not financial advisors, we can help them spend more if we sell them on it, okay? So, a couple things. I love what Brandon said earlier today. If you ever get into a situation and you like kind of freeze up if you're in an uncomfortable situation, I truly believe that when you are implementing something new for the first time, I think the majority of us do panic. You're like, oh my God, they actually asked the question. So for those of you who here have been selling business gifts at all, you probably remember the first time you talked to a person that actually owned a business. You're like, so do you by chance own a business or give gifts to clients or employees? And they're like, yes. And you're like, oh my God, what do I do next? How much do you spend on them? Employees, do you have those? You're like, Rob has 8 questions, what do I ask? He sells so much business gifts. Okay, so I do think that we kind of panic when we're like, oh my God, how do I help this person that actually owns a business maybe potentially want to buy them? So I've had the pleasure of working with John Clobey for a number of years. And again, the thing that he is so good and so disciplined at is he just asks every single person, and he still talks about the gifting program, even when a person says, nah, I don't, right? So first thing, I know this isn't necessarily related to the 7-inch Santoku, but I think that it does matter because you can utilize the 7-inch Santoku when you're doing this, okay? So when John, for example, would have a person that looks qualified, that's buying something or whatever, still asks everybody, he'll say, yeah, do you by chance own a business or give gifts to clients or employees? They're like, no, I don't do that. He would say, cool, no worries. Just so you know, he takes a business gift, so I take a 7-inch Santoku, and I just put it in front of them. I open it up, and I say, yes, no big deal. We put logos and do engravings for people that own businesses or give gifts. That's all I say. And you would be surprised how many people go, oh, that's kind of cool. And then they let on, oh, I'm actually in sales. Or, oh, actually, I've got a plumbing company or I've got a construction company. I never thought about that. Because they don't even understand where you're trying to lead that conversation because they don't think that it's real, okay? So when you ask that question, just remember that a lot of the talking points that you have are not complicated. It's just get more curious, okay? So if a person does say, yes, I own a business or give gifts to clients or employees, just get curious, okay? Joseph talks about this at no end. It's like genuinely just be curious about what the business looks like, okay? So what I found is this. By being more curious, you become more real. And when you become more real, the dollars being spent increase. Because the customer hears that you actually care about what the business is. So ask questions when you're talking to a person about their business that dig beyond the surface. Right? So saying something that is very authentic, like is, hey, I'm just curious. I love learning how different businesses work. How does the money flow through your business? Where do you get your customers? Is it all through trade shows like this? Is it all through word of mouth? Like, how does it actually work? How long have you been in business? What did that look like when you first started? Oh, you started in 2008. That's a crazy time to start a business. What was that like? Then you can ask questions like, so how many employees do you guys have now? How many customers do you work with on an annual basis? Right? Those are not hard questions, but again, starting with curiosity of like, what does that look like? You'd be surprised how many people are excited. You guys, we sell knives for a living, but then when people actually, again, dig deep, it's kind of interesting what we do. We set up our wares, as Seth likes to say, at these trade shows, and people come to these shows and they come buy our wares. And we make a living and pay our mortgages with it. It's crazy, right? So again, when you ask a business owner about what they do and get curious, you'd be surprised how excited they are, okay? So when you ask more questions, and again, you're having this conversation with people, again, the 7-inch Santoku, by the way, is still in front of them this whole entire time. That's all intentional, right? Having a 3-piece, a 2-piece, and a 1-piece gift set in front of you guys, I only use one board for knives now. I got rid of my homemaker set because it's very easy to just show a homemaker quad, like the quad, not even the quad fold, excuse me, just the Sets for Life brochure. It's just very easy to say, this is in the homemaker, I can pull out a spreader, I can pull out a butcher knife, and I can pull out a paring knife. I use that real estate in my 6 feet of space at the events that I get to put out business gifts. Just because I have noticed how big of a needle mover the 7-inch Santoku along with business gifts is. So once you start getting more curious, you can ask questions like, hey, so for whoever you give these to, right, what does a key client look like in your business? Right, Joseph asked this amazing question. It's like, hey, so who's the number one customer in your business? And they'll be like, it's XYZ, it's Joe Schmo. So I'm curious, Mr. Jones, just like, what would it do to your business if Joe Schmo went to your competitor? How much would that affect your bottom line? So again, for those people that you're asking questions to, it's like, I'm just curious, like, what does your like top customer spend with you, right? Like, how much does that look like? To be a top customer in your business, what does a person have to spend, right? And then asking a question simple as like, do you feel like you could find a margin where you think, again, $100 to $200 gift could maybe make sense for you guys, right? And throughout these questions, obviously, you're already probably getting a gauge of like, yeah, what do you typically spend on a gift? Is it 50 to 100, 100 to 200, 250 plus? Right? At the end of the day, I found that, again, everybody wants to be different, but everybody does the same thing, right? Literally, everybody does tumblers, Yetis, coolers, bottles of wine, gift cards, right? And I vocalize that to my customers. Like, everybody wants to be different, but everybody does the same thing. Just so you know, I've got 16 frickin' tumblers, and my fiance complains about how we don't even have the cabinet space now to put all the tumblers, and she's right. But I know for a fact that when a person gets a sharp knife, they're going to prioritize the drawer space because it actually makes a difference in their everyday cooking. So be curious with them. Like, in your industry, what are the gifts that are typically being given right now? Right? And again, if you want to set yourself apart from your competitors, what would it look like to maybe do something that, again, is the most practical gift that we found out there? That gets used not once a day, but sometimes twice or even 3 times a day, and not once a week, sometimes every single week of the year. Okay, so I'll wrap with this. If you're looking for the wow effect, right, the 7-inch Santoku is your area of opportunity, right? So what I tell my customers is, again, if you're spending $100 to $200, like if the $100, like don't spend the money if it doesn't make sense. But what a lot of my customers have done is they'll take 3 to 7% of their profit on their customers, and they'll put it back into that relationship. Right? Again, straight out of Joseph Rodriguez's mouth. That's not mine. That's all stolen from Joseph. Okay, so what are your customers worth to you, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones? And what would it look like to reinvest back into the relationships that really move the needle? So if it makes sense to just spend the $100 or the $150 on the scissors or the Santoku trimmer, that's great. But for you, who would it make sense to spend $200 on? Because the 7-inch Santoku, Mrs. Jones, you're going to put that in a person's kitchen, and it is going to be the knife that literally every single person in that family fights over for the next 10, 20 years. So with that, that's what I got. Thank you, guys.